Many of you know her already. She's a woman who stared down criminals in her former job. Now she stares down politicians with the same sort of fire in her eyes. Nadine's a former police officer. She's the founder of United Grassroots, a movement that has been giving you Saskies a voice when your own government and your own media tries to shut you up. She's a mom, she's an organizer, and when Nadine tried to host an event just like this one, guess what happened? She was deplatformed. Her venue got put under pressure because Nadine says the quiet part out loud. And so, welcome up, Nadine Ness.
I always hate these things because I'm so short, and almost all of me is hidden. First, I want to say, if you haven't read Corey's book, I highly recommend you do. There's paper copies. I got the audio version. I was still listening to the last few chapters on the way here today. But when I started it, I said, Corey, where were you 4 years ago? Because what he does, he gives the blueprint to activists on how to influence change. And we really do learn by his mistakes, because I was reading it and I'm like, I've done that. Okay, I wish I had read it before. So thank you, Corey, for putting that out there. And if you get a chance to read it, I highly recommend you do. Now I'm going to talk about that video. It's funny, you guys played that video from the Bloc Québécois leader, because I start my presentation with that. If you've been to our town hall in Saskatchewan, I start with that video, and I see it a little bit different than you two. You guys saw it as arrogant or not really knowing much about Saskatchewan or the West. I'm originally from the East, so when I moved out West, this is all things that I've been introduced to as to what Saskatchewan and what Alberta is. I first moved to Calgary, so I lived there, and then went to Vancouver, and then settled in Saskatchewan in 2009. And I start my presentation by talking about what is Saskatchewan, what is Saskatchewan culture, and we go through it. We're pioneers, we're hard workers. We believe the government is not the answer, the government's the problem. We think taxes are not a duty, they're a burden. There's so many different things that define what Saskatchewan is and what Alberta is compared to the East, and I'm going to give you one lived experience. My father owned a construction company in New Brunswick, and in the winter, they shut down construction. Everyone goes on EI. Everyone has the mindset that EI owes us. It's a privilege. It's something that's owed to them. And I moved out west to Calgary first, and they were pouring basement in the middle of winter. And I'm like, how are they doing this? Like, doesn't it crack? Doesn't it damage it? And they said, no, they become ingenuitive. It's not a word. You know what I mean. My first language is French, so sorry I butcher some words. But anyways, they would put all these plastic around it and put heat in it, and that's how they build the basement. And I said, how come they started doing that? And they said, well, we can't wait for summer. We got to do it. And that's the mentality, and that's what the culture of the West is. We don't wait for government to say we can do this. We just do it. And then we ask for permission later. Now, I would consider myself a Westerner now. I've got all these core beliefs that I didn't used to have. I used to be like a liberal. I voted for Trudeau his first time around, and I know you guys always boo. You have the right to boo. Boo. I've been working since to try to undo the mistakes that I've done, but I did vote for Trudeau in Saskatchewan, so it didn't really count. But I say this because I know how I used to think. So when you see me lead this movement, I don't just lead it for those of you who are fully aware of what's going on. I lead it for also waking up the people who are still asleep the way I used to be. Because if you're thinking your conversation needs to be met with the same conversation you're going to have with your friend that's fully aware of what's going on, we're not going to reach that 51% or 60%, as Corey said, is what we should aim in this movement for independence. Now, Saskatchewan's not as easy as Alberta. And I'm not telling you this to make you feel despair. I'm telling you this because the legislation is just not there. And Corey touched on it. We don't have a citizen-led referendum option. We have a plebiscite, which basically is non-binding, so it's essentially a poll. So we could do all this work to gather all the signatures, and in the end, they don't have to do anything about it. So that sounds very despairing, but there's actually a way that's even more effective, and I'm going to talk to you guys about that. If we want to get to a referendum, we need to influence the current government. If we want to do it in the next 2, 3, 4 years, we need to influence the current government. And I'm not saying other political parties gaining momentum might not have some influence. We've seen that happen in the past where the Buffalo Party was gaining momentum and Scott Moe did a whole bunch of town hall with Al Kirpin, and then they came out with a report called the White Paper. If you don't know what that is, it essentially gave a list of things Saskatchewan should do, like start its own police force, the pension, start its own pension, all good things that are steps in the right direction. Have I seen Scott Moe go ahead and push that forward? Not as much as I would like. So how do you influence change? Well, there's several ways. We can wait till the entire public is convinced and then maybe eventually vote for a new party, but that's going to take way more work than what I'm going to teach you today. Right now, there are elections that are happening in your constituency that are very key and very important, and that's with both the NDP and the Sask Party. I'm going to talk about the two parties that are currently in power. So this is basic democratic education 101. And this is the kind of stuff they probably don't want you to know. That's why the NDP's been trying to shut me down and shut our town halls down, because they're afraid I'm going to get Carla Beck kicked out, which is a possibility with about 200 of you. So how do we do that? In political parties, they're run almost like a private entity in a way. In the government's eyes, even though they're elected officials, they're kind of is a private entity, and they each have their own bylaws. So currently, Sask Party is holding election for Constituency Association Board. Each MLA has a board, and on that board, they're elected by an AGM, and they're all happening right now. If you go to the Sask Party website, you'll see AGM for constituency. So each MLA has a board. It consists of 5 people: the president, the vice president, treasurer, 6, sorry, treasurer, secretary, member something, and delegate. One delegate represents one vote in a group of all these other delegates, so you have 61. And I know this is dry information, but pay attention with me. The light will go on shortly. So let's say all these elections happen within the next 3 months, and you guys show up at this AGM. How many people do you think show up at these AGM to vote the board?
36.
Less, about 10 to 15. Usually it's the family members of the MLAs and their closest friends. If you guys show up at these AGM and you elect a delegate that are one of you, you only need 36 to call. Well, you need 8 to call an emergency meeting, and you need 36 to have majority vote. So basically, 36 times 10 or 15 could determine if Scott Moe is doing a good enough job as the leader of the party. Now, I'm not saying get rid of Scott Moe, unless we're ready for someone that might, we don't know if we're going to get worse, right? So the thing is, if you guys do this, if you get membership to the party, and he knows that, he's more likely to listen to you. So now on the alternative side, there's an AGM happening this fall. The AGM of the party is, if you don't need to be on a board, you just need a party membership and show up. And I'm give you an example. Alberta did the exact same thing, and they booted out Jason Kenney. So, and they had an AGM, and usually there'd be like 600 people. Do you know the exact number of how many were at the first AGM 4 years ago?
I don't offhand, but
Okay,
the
it might have
numbers
been
exploded.
700-800. The following year, there was like 1,800. The following year after that, it was like 3,000 some people. And then the last one was close to
6,000 people.
6,000. So there's groups in Alberta that went teaching what I'm teaching. So Sask Party had, I think, under 700 at their AGM. Now what happens at that AGM, they do a leadership review. So do you think Scott Moe has been doing a good job at leading this party? And maybe he will. Maybe he will. We have a list of things we would like to see before the AGM. Now, all that would need to happen is for the people in this room and a few in Saskatoon to show up, and the voice of the people will be heard. Now, on the flip side, NDP has an AGM too. They don't have 680 people that show up. They have less than 200. So everyone in this room was to show up. We could boot out Carla Beck and elect an NDP leader that's willing to hear the voice of the people. Look, I'm not saying this is what we're going to do. When you get a party membership, you have to say you align with their values. In the NDP, if you get a party membership provincially, it also means federally too, so you can't have a party membership in another party. But this is one of the ways you can have your greatest voice heard.
Hey, what do you think about Alberta independence? What do you think about Alberta trying to get a better deal within Canada? Do you think Alberta should have the right to vote in a referendum to separate, the same way Quebec did? There's a lot of things to talk about. Can Canada be fixed, or has the West tried that, done that, been there, and it's just not working? Well, we're going to talk about all these things in an amazing day-long conference in Red Deer, the heart of Alberta, on Saturday, June 14th. Go to donegetingscrewed.com to get your tickets now. It's going to be a full day. We'll start with a continental breakfast. We'll have panel discussions. We'll have keynote speakers. We'll even have a debate. I think that's going to be the highlight of it. David Legg, former advisor to the Alberta government, is going to make the case for Canada. Keith Wilson, lawyer, freedom activist, he was with the Freedom Convoy. He'll be making the case for independence. We'll have other people in the debates, a media panel, and people of different points of view, including different political parties. There's going to be a bit of a trade show there too. So we'll serve you 2 meals, but more than that, we'll serve you ideas you just can't get anywhere else. But it's coming up quick, and I promise you this event will sell out. There's only room for 1,000 people. And I know that there have been 1,000-person meetings about this subject all over the province. In fact, we had an event in Calgary that sold out in 2 days when we had only 350 seats. So don't be disappointed. Go to donegetingscrewed.com and get your tickets now. I'll be there. Sheila Gunn-Reid will be there. So many interesting people. Our friends in other media companies like Western Standard, Juno News, and Counter Signal. It's going to be a great day. That's Saturday, June 14th in Red Deer, Alberta, all day long. Go to donegetingscrewed.com to get your ticket now. Don't wait. I don't want you to be locked out. It's going to be full. See you there. That's donegetingscrewed.com.
So let's say Scott Moe tomorrow says, I'm going to vote with Carla Beck, and I'm going to shut the people down so we can't do a referendum. Well, all that needs to happen is 36 people say, no, you're not. We're going to move this forward. Now, some people will say, well, yeah, all that's going to happen is they're going to get more people to get involved at their leadership. They're going to get more people to go to the AGM. I'm going to say yes to that. Because less than 1%, how many people in this room has a membership to a political party? Okay, a lot more than usual. How many of you have voted in a nomination race? So a little bit more than usual. You guys are a bit weird because we show up to political events. But the majority of the population is less than 1%. So when you say, I don't have a government that represents me, they don't listen to me, you're right. They listen to the less than 1% who show up at those AGM, who show up at a nomination race. For those who don't know what a nomination race is, it's an election that occurs where they pick the candidate that's going to be on the ballot for the party. So those ones, there's about 200-300 people that determine who's going to be on the ballot. So they don't represent the whole population. They represent a small portion. Now, I'm not going to focus too much on that because that nomination election is not going to happen for 3 years. But when it does happen, if we can get activated, we can potentially have candidates run against the current one or against the new ones who are pro-independence and fighting for Saskatchewan. So Unified Grassroots did encourage people to do that last year. So we did, I've learned, even after the fact, some people were UG members that ended up running. We didn't even know. And they ended up winning and then getting elected. Now the media keeps trying to ask me who they are. I'm like, you could have some in the NDP. We don't really know. We just encourage people to get involved in all areas. So I say this, if you think signing a petition will be all you have to do, we will never get there. You guys need to show up in these meetings. You need to get a membership to a party. And I can tell you, Scott Moe didn't ask me to promote that to you guys. In fact, he probably doesn't want me to, because that holds him accountable to the people. I wish I had known what I know now when times were tough during COVID, because we would have made sure none of what happened had happened. I didn't know that. So, does that make sense to you guys? Do you guys see how easy it is? Who's willing to show up at an AGM and elect a new board? It's one meeting a year. That's all I'm asking you. You need to find the person willing to be the sacrificial lamb in your area. But you can also find people to do the whole board. And look, I'm not saying be an enemy to them. That's not what I'm saying. You need to be a support for these elected officials. A lot of them feel the same way as you do, but they just can't say it. So you need to help them with the communication too. I will be really critical of Scott Moe. They have really poor communication. Like they're very responsive to after things happen, but they're not proactive in their communication. But that's where you guys can help out. You can give them messaging, give them ideas, give them the answer that the people are asking. Now, we're gonna let go of the political stuff, and I'm almost done. We are gathering the names of people who are willing to do something about this. We could put enough pressure to get Scott Moe to change the legislation for a citizen-led referendum, which I'm hoping we're going to be able to be successful in doing. We're going to be lobbying for that as an organization. Right now, it's not an option. But I can tell you, if Scott Moe listens to this and all the MLAs listen to this and they start seeing that people are showing up at their AGM that they've never seen before, if let's say after you guys leave tonight and there's 500 new political membership to the Sask party, they're going to start realizing what is happening. And what I'm teaching you is not illegal. This is how democracy works in Canada. The reason you think the government doesn't represent you is because they've purposely kept this from you. They don't want you to know this. They want their family and friends to know it, but not you. So we're going to try to gather everyone. So when it times comes for a petition, for a referendum, that we have all the people gathered already. Now, if you think UG is going to be the one doing all of the work, we won't. We won't succeed. We won't be able to do it. It needs to be something that each one of you goes home, has conversation with your family, with your friends, or maybe host a meeting. We actually released our town hall that we did in Saskatoon, which teaches all of this greater in depth. We released it publicly. This is kind of a funny story. Have you guys been paying attention to the mainstream media the last few weeks? Probably not. You're probably like me. I have people send it to me. There's been like numerous press release about me, our organization, that I'm pushing for the 51st state. There's so many lies. But the good thing is people are talking about it, and the separatists in Saskatchewan are like, oh, there's an organization, so it's really great for growing. But they came to our town hall in Saskatoon and secretly recorded the meeting in hopes of releasing it, maybe twisting it, I don't know. But the cool thing is, because of all the cancellation that's been happening, we're going to record it and release it publicly. Since they're not going to let us gather in person, we're gonna let you gather in your home. So we recorded it, and the funny thing is, the day of, literally an hour later, I said, I'm gonna post this publicly, and then NDP does a big press release, like, oh, we've got this secret recording, here you go, media. I'm like, oh, we already posted it publicly. Did you want the video? Because we've got the video too, not just the audio. But I say this, it needs to be an individual effort. It can't be a person-led or a movement or organization-led. It will not succeed. Because then all they need to do is take one down, which they'll try. They've been trying really hard. But if you guys have meetings in your home, they'll never know who showed up. They'll never know the numbers. They might show up at an event like this, try to take pictures, but they won't be able to show up in every single living room in your home. If you don't know how to do it or what to say, we've released the slides publicly. You can use ours or not. You can have a watch party. Do a game, have a drink every time Nadine says something. I don't know. Just make it fun. But that's the thing. I don't want you guys to look to us for every next step, because we won't succeed. When the referendum is called, we're going to need people willing to door knock. We're going to need people willing to do phone calls. We're going to need people to do get out the vote campaigns. If you don't know what that is, we're hoping to train you. We're hoping to have big events where we can train you on how to get people to vote, because it's going to need to be an individual effort. And that's a problem we have on the right. We're individualists. We don't really come together collectively to influence change. This is where I got to get my old mindset, how I used to think, and try to teach you, if we don't do it collectively, again, we won't get there. And I want to say, I support and love if any other organization steps up and starts doing the work. Like I said, I don't want you guys to look at us as the only answer. We need these little groups starting in every community, and we need different approach too. Like I said, my approach might not be a one-size-fits-all. We might be looking to focus on the middle ground people, but we need people on the more awake side to keep them engaged, keep them working towards a goal. So when I say this, I'm trying to encourage you guys to step up. I'm trying to get you guys to not look at me as the answer in Saskatchewan, and instead to look at yourself. And if you want support in your own community, if you want resources, then come to me and I'll give you all of that so that you can grow in your own community. That's what we're hoping to do. We'll be a gathering place for the masses when it comes time to the petition. The referendum will be a gathering place to train and activate people to door knock, to get out the vote. Will be a gathering place for maybe some of the data that you might need to push your arguments forward. Maybe we'll have a plan of what it looks like. We'll kind of be a little bit like the APP, Alberta Prosperity Project in Alberta. But I want you guys to understand too, we're just getting into this as an organization. I'm not the expert. He called me, Corey is an expert. I wouldn't call myself an expert in this. I'm just someone who's really passionate, who's really lost hope in our country, and I think I need to do this because the future of my kids depend on it. But that's it.